John Anderson, I'm running for El Paso County Sheriff again. Certainly one of the greatest privileges of my life was serving as Sheriff for El Paso County from 1995 to 2003. I was followed by Sheriff Terry Makita, who's here with us today, when I was term limited. As he's term limited, I have the honor of having his endorsement and his support going into what will be my third term in office. Prior to my administration in 1995, I spent 22 years with Colorado Springs Police Department. After I retired from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, I spent another 10 years in corporate America working with Homeland Security and Homeland Defense, as well as some of the leading law enforcement agencies around the world. I'm running because I want to give El Paso County Republican voters a choice in the primary in June. A choice of someone who's actually been there, who actually has a record of managing a budget successfully, someone who's actually stood up for your constitutional rights, and in particular, your Second Amendment rights. When I became sheriff in 2005, there were 3 concealed weapon permits in existence for citizens. When I left, there were over 14,000. It changed not only how we issue concealed weapon permits here in El Paso County, but all over the state, and had a national impact. I thought that was really pretty good. I was very proud of that. But when I see what Terry Makita has done, he's signed over 30,000 permits, which has had a tremendous impact around the state. When Terry leaves office, the largest turnover of sheriffs in Colorado history will exist. And it's going to lead a leadership vacuum at the state level for people that have the experience, like Terry and myself, who testified against gun legislation that is not in the best interest of our citizens. I thank Terry for his service and his leadership at the state level, and I pledge that if I'm given the opportunity to return, I'll have that same commitment that you've seen from Sheriff Makita and that I demonstrated during the 8 years that I was here. My priorities, as are Terry's, is to ensure the continuity of leadership as we change from his administration, hopefully to mine, because without that continuity of leadership, that seamless transition, we can't ensure that public safety services during that interim will continue uninterrupted. Changes in administration can be very disruptive. What I intend to do is keep all of the staff that Terry has in place there, because without that, we can't have that continuity of services. We have to have a seamless transition, and I'm honored that Terry and many of his key staff are helping now to ensure that we do have that seamless transition. The second thing that's important to me is the preservation of all of our constitutional rights, not just the Second Amendment. Again, we need somebody with demonstrated experience who's actually been at the state capitol, that's actually testified on committee, that knows at the state and national level how to get things done through the legislation. I do bring that experience. The third thing I want to do is to focus our attention after the primary to other good Republican candidates. We're very fortunate with our campaign that we have dozens of campaign workers. We have a full-time dedicated office downtown, and we're focused on getting this election behind us, turning our attention at the state and at the national level. People like Wayne Williams and Doug Lamborn, getting the state and the governor's office and ensuring that those people that will help support our public safety interests are in those offices as well. I'm John Anderson. I ask for your support as El Paso County Sheriff one more time. If you're a delegate on Saturday, I ask that you trust your support and your vote to me, John Anderson, running for El Paso County Sheriff. Thank you.
Jim Reid, get over here. I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good. I'm Jim Reid, and I'm running for El Paso County Sheriff. And why am I running? It's about protecting our way of life. It's about your security, your safety, your taxpayer dollars, and your constitutional rights. The sheriff is the constitutional officer. And as a constitutional officer, the sheriff is responsible for fire warden, maintaining the jail, keeping the peace, transportation of prisoners. Now, what does fire warden include? How many knew the sheriff was a fire warden? How about hazmat, wildland firefighting, search and rescue, right? And the commissioners have also given the sheriff the audacious task of the Office of Emergency Management. So, what do I bring to you? Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've got 35 years of emergency response. 35 years I've been doing this. I have certifications and experience in law enforcement, firefighting, hazmat, incident command, and emergency management. I started my career in the United States Air Force. My first national task was sitting on the tarmac providing security for the Iranian hostages when they got off the plane. I was so proud of our president because he brought our Americans home. President Reagan did it. After my service, actually I was also in Kuwait, and I served Operation Southern Watch. After my Air Force service, I was fortunate enough to be hired by Sheriff Makita. I was his Emergency Services Division Commander. Now what does that guy do? Well, if the sheriff can't shoot it, cuff it, or tase it, it's mine. That's kind of the rules on that. So I took care of all the stuff that the fire warden was responsible for, and more. I was the incident commander for the Waldo Canyon fire for El Paso County. Who do you think led the way? Who was leading the way in that fire? Our own very Sheriff Terry Makita. Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate what you did for me. I was the guy behind the curtain. I was the guy making sure that everything was coordinated, that we had federal resources coming in, that we had state resources coming in, that we had local resources coming in. Folks, I'm currently now the Executive Director of Public Services. I manage a $30 million budget, over 300 employees, and I'm responsible for the recovery of Black Forest and Ute Pass. I'm married. My wife Jeanette has been with the Sheriff's Office for 22 years. She's my foundation. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. It's about our community. It's about my community. I'm a pro-life conservative. I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm a Christian. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm a veteran. I want to continue to serve you because why? It's about protecting our way of life. It's about your safety, your security, your tax dollars, and your constitutional rights. My name is Jim Reid, and I would certainly love your vote for sheriff on Saturday. Now, I have this thing here. The reason why I'm holding this, not because there's such a beautiful picture in front, this handsome guy in the front here. If you look inside, there's also the schedule for the assembly on Saturday. This is a great tool, so please help yourself to these. And I would be personally and deeply honored for your vote on March 29th. I'm Jim Reid, running for sheriff. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. Mother Mary, thanks for having us. Thanks for setting this up. And it is a wide group of candidates. I'm Bill Elder. I'm a candidate for sheriff as well. We're a little crowded, not as crowded as the governor's race. The water's fine. Come on. I've lived in Colorado Springs most of my life. I moved here when I was 11. I grew up here. I've raised my kids here. I'm watching my grandkids be raised here. This is my hometown. I started at the Sheriff's Office in 1978 as a volunteer, and I worked for 20 years at the Sheriff's Office. I worked my way through all of the patrol ranks, spent the last 4.5 years as a commander in Metro Narcotics. I built Metro Narcotics from a 2-agency unit to the largest Metro Narcotics unit in the state of Colorado. In 1998, I started a small business. I still run a real estate business locally and have for 14 years. 3 years ago, in 2010, I was given the honor to go back to work in law enforcement as the operations commander for the Fountain Police Department, and I'm now the Deputy Chief of Police. I love my job. I love the city of Fountain. I love serving the community. And now I want to have a chance to serve all of El Paso County. My campaign is built on 3 tenets. The first is protecting your constitutional rights. Not just the Second Amendment. I'm a pro-Second Amendment supporter. I love the concealed weapons permit program. It will not change. But I lean more towards constitutional carry. I believe that the Constitution, as supported by the Heller decision, says you have the right to keep and bear arms. It doesn't say you need a permit if you want to wear a jacket. It doesn't say if you're a woman that you need a permit to put it in your purse. We need to look at developing a constitutional carry statute for the state of Colorado. But we need to make sure that we protect those reciprocal agreements we have with other states as well. There's also the Fourth Amendment. You must be secure in your person, property, or things. You need to know that your sheriff has spent time working patrol, that understands those safeguards. The safeguards in place by the Fifth Amendment. and by Miranda versus Arizona. You need to know that I've had the time on the street to understand those things. The second tenet of my campaign is regional cooperation and collaboration. We are currently working on a plan to build a regional training center. We've hired a training operator that came out of Canyon City that manages the Central Mountain Training Foundation, and a $250,000 grant that's provided by Post. We opened up training to all of South Central Colorado through this opportunity. We want to finish a study on a regional communications center to try and combine the operators in E911 and our dispatchers to speed up and make more efficient our response to your calls for service. And lastly, I want an open and transparent administration. I need to conduct an audit of this last year to make sure that we are spending things exactly the way you as the voters want them spent. I'm not saying that there is an issue. I'm not saying that anything's wrong. And I'm certainly not saying we need to go back 20 years. I'm saying we need an open and transparent audit all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bill Elder. I'm a candidate for sheriff. Thank you.
Yeah.